people often think that a dark roast is going to have more caffeine, but it's actually the opposite. The
Yeah.
lighter the roast, the more caffeine it has, and the darker roast, it actually drops the caffeine. So for somebody like me, like and the 50% of people out there are slow metabolizers, the dark roast lowers the caffeine content a bit because of the roasting process, but also it brings out the flavor notes in the coffee, which are not always brought out with the lighter roast.
Living with autoimmunity doesn't mean settling for less. Inspired Living with Autoimmunity is the show for high achievers who want the energy and vitality to live fully, not just manage symptoms. With your host and autoimmune coach, Julie Houghton. It's time to take your power back.
If you're anything like me, coffee is a non-negotiable part of your day. But did you know more than half of us are slow caffeine metabolizers and don't even know it? Welcome back to the Inspired Living with Autoimmunity podcast. I'm your host, Julie Houghton. In today's episode, I'm thrilled to have Dr. Vincent Pedre back to talk about something every coffee lover needs to hear about. We talk about slow caffeine metabolizers and how caffeine affects their sleep and anxiety. We also talk about the dangers lurking in your daily coffee, from pesticides that destroy gut bacteria to microplastics from K-cups and plastic-lined to-go cups, and everything in between. But there's good news. You don't have to give up coffee to be healthy. Stay tuned to learn how to optimize your coffee routine right now to transform your morning ritual from gut harming to gut healing while keeping the joy and benefits of coffee in your life. Dr. Pedre, welcome back to the podcast.
So great to see you again and be back here with you to talk about something new and exciting that I'm working on, but also I know you're going to have some really great questions for me.
Yep, I don't even fully know what direction we're going to go. I always enjoy speaking with you so much. And I had to make myself hit record because I just wanted to jump in and talk about your new project, Happy Gut Coffee. So for listeners that aren't going to go back, let's do a really brief, I cannot encourage listeners enough to check out episode 79. And you'll learn a lot about Dr. Pedre's journey and how he just has become this gut guru. And you'll check out the book, all the good things. But for those that aren't going to believe me and they need to go back and listen to that, we're going to get to how the coffee, but let's just talk a little bit about your journey. And because not all physicians end up taking the direction you did.
No. And I consider myself lucky that I did. And actually the direction I took was always based on listening to my gut intuition.
See what you did there.
But you know how sometimes you do things and there's like a little voice inside of you that's saying, no, this path isn't right for me.
Yeah.
But you're doing it because on paper it looks good.
Yeah.
But deep down inside, you actually feel that it's discordant with where it is that you want to be in life. And I think we all struggle with that, right? We all sometimes override our own gut intuition and do things that we know to that very wise, intuitive voice within us is against what we believe. And yet we do it because we're pleasing somebody else. And in some ways, like I went and became a doctor partly to please my mom. And
it's like so many men. I hear the word should, right? When you're shoulding on yourself is what you're talking about there.
It's so interesting because I'm reading this book by Louise Hayes. It's called How to Heal Your Life. And she talks about the word should, and she talks about how should is always connected to a feeling of wrongness.
Mhm.
Like, I
Yeah.
should be dieting, I should be going to the gym. But the implied other piece of it is that you're being wrong with yourself, that you're not
Right.
doing what you
Yes.
should be doing. Instead, she says, change it to could, you
Yes.
know.
Opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah, and then take ownership over, like, why is it that you're not doing it? For me, it was like I knew I was going to become a doctor, and I knew that I was going to enter into a world that was geared in one direction, right? And that direction is pharmaceutical driven medicine. And I don't know that a lot of doctors have reached that level of meta-analysis or self-awareness that they've actually been brainwashed, air quotes, by the pharmaceutical industry, which is
Right.
bought into the medical schools in the country,
Yeah.
to think that the solution for disease is medication.
Right.
Now, that said, I don't want to say that all medications are bad. Medications can
No.
be life-saving. Medications are tools that sometimes are required.
Right.
Sometimes you do need prednisone for a patient
Right.
because there's no other way that you're going to shut off the inflammatory pathway. But a lot of times we're substituting medication for another option that could be better. And for me, before I went into medical school, I actually discovered meditation, breath work, and yoga. This was about 8 months before medical school. I had finished college one semester early, so
Of course
I
you
went
did.
back home. I was very lucky to have done that because I don't think I could have gone from finishing college in May to starting medical school 3 months later in August. I needed that time period.
To
And
breathe.
during that time, I had to deal with a really big elephant in the room for me.
Mhm.
I wanted to become a doctor. I wanted to help people. I really wanted to aspire to that ideal, but I was afraid of needles and I passed out every time I had my blood drawn, an injection. And I started doubting, how
Mm.
am I going to become a doctor if I can't be in the room with needles and the smell of alcohol makes me queasy? So, how are these two things that I love science, I love helping people, but I don't like needles and I don't like the smell of alcohol? It makes me
Yeah.
feel like sick to my stomach. How can I do this? And that's where I discovered meditation, breath work, and yoga. And instead of thinking like, how can I medicate myself out of that reaction, which is what is happening throughout our entire society, people medicate themselves to be able to function. I
Mhm.
thought, what is happening internally inside of me that
Mhm.
needs to shift so that I can be in a room with needles, so I can then pursue my dream of becoming a doctor and helping people better their lives? And so I discovered meditation, breath work, and yoga and started doing it. I'm going to say almost religiously. Like, I really, really dove in and dedicated myself to this. And you have to understand, I mean, I think we're contemporaries. This is going back to 95.
Right.
In 1995, the internet is barely existent.
Right.
Yoga
Yeah.
studios do not exist yet.
Right.
Like, this is not the trend where society was. So I was actually exploring something that there wasn't really a known pathway. And the only thing I had in my life was my outlier godfather, who was a meditator, practiced yoga, and was a pescatarian. And he had always been kind of like, every time he visited the family, talking about what he did. But everybody thought he was kind of like this weird outlier, like,
Well, he
oh,
was.
like nobody
That,
does yoga, nobody does
yeah.
meditation. And here I find myself finding it, but from a very different angle, from the angle of how can this provide some sort of healing potential for me? Because I am this type A wound up person who can go into an anxious panic so easily.
Right.
And how can I rewire this? Because I'm tired of this. I don't want to be this anymore, but I'm not going to take a medication for this. I'm going to completely rewire my brain. And that's what I did for the 8 months before medical school started. I was meditating, doing breath work on a daily basis. And as a result, by the time I got into medical school, I was a changed person. I had also like used that. I always like to, I don't like free space. So
Yeah,
even though I had finished college and, I could have been partying and just having a good time, I like to learn.
sure.
So I started reading books by Andrew Weil and Deepak Chopra. And look, both of them are MDs, respected MDs who
Right.
had the courage to go beyond their education and look at what else is out there because everything we've learned doesn't fully explain how some people are capable of healing.
Right.
And so by the time I got to medical school, my mind had been open to the possibility that there is something else out there. And regardless of what they're going to teach me or they're going to try to indoctrinate me with, I experienced it for myself because I was able to rewire my brain. I was able to rewire the way I react to stressors, to needles. And because of that, I conquered my fear of needles and I was empowered to see that there is
Yes.
another pathway that empowers people, that allows you to heal in a way that does not require medication.
Yeah.
Didn't even require therapy. Like I didn't go to a therapist thinking like,
Right.
hey, I'm afraid of needles. Like, how do I conquer my fear of needles? No, I conquered my fear of needles not by thinking about it, but by doing meditation breath work to completely rewire the way my autonomic nervous system responds to a stress response.
That's
And
amazing.
it served me really well in medical school because, when you do certain rotations like ER and trauma, like you can't lose your head when the other person's losing theirs.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean,
You
I
just
wish
gotta,
that, could you imagine if your gap was everybody's, first semester of medical school? Like how different medicine would be here?
it would
Yeah.
be so different. And I know there are like the medical schools now are incorporating, some of them are bringing in nutrition and other things that weren't available when I went to medical school. But even, there's a gap in education too. Like
Sure.
we're teaching our kids about history, but we're not teaching them how to be successful in life.
Right. Right.
So I think,
Like you teach a doctor in medical school how to be a doctor, but not how to run a practice.
yeah,
Right. Like,
exactly. Or
yeah.
even just
Or
basic,
balance a checkbook. The kids
like,
don't learn that anymore.
no, and that's really, we should be teaching basic life skills.
Yeah.
And I think everybody should be taught how to regulate their nervous system because I think that
Yes.
is the single unifying factor, not to simplify everything, but I think if the majority of people could learn how to regulate their internal nervous system, they would be walking around feeling a very different way.
Yes. Well, and that ripple effect, just energetically. If everybody that you came into contact with throughout the day knew how to regulate their nervous system, I mean, wow. Yeah, that would be incredible. Amazing.
We would be a happier society.
Oh, that's an understatement. We would heal, you would heal the world. Come on. It would be
Let's
amazing.
do it.
I
Let's
think
do it. I
that's
mean, that's what
great.
that's what
Yeah.
Louise Hayes wanted to do.
Yeah.
But it really takes an ongoing effort and a lot of awareness. But I think we're in a place where information is so easily shared.
Yes.
But I think I would hate to be a patient now. I would really hate to be a patient now. And the reason is that we've gone from like lack of information where you had to go to bookstores and you had to read a book to learn about something and go to the
Mhm.
encyclopedia to like this explosion that there is so much information out there that
Yeah.
what do you do? Like, who do you
Right.
follow? What path do you go? Because there's like fasting, keto, paleo, like do this, don't do that. No, yes, do this.
Right.
It's confusing.
It
It is
is. It's
so
information
confusing.
overload. I actually had this conversation yesterday with a client who had all these questions about her labs, and instead of reaching out, but it was before the lab review. She got her labs and was in the rabbit hole. Well, I was looking up, what does this mean and what does that mean? I'm like, if only you had somebody you could reach out to. Like, don't do
Yeah.
that. She's like, I wasn't sure if I was dying. And by the way, her labs are beautiful too.
Yeah,
So
people,
it's
yeah,
just
and that's been like one of those points of internal debate for me because sometimes, patients want to see their labs before.
right.
And a lot of times I've been old school traditional where I say, no,
Yeah.
you're not going to get your labs until you and I meet
Yep.
and we discuss what they mean. The funny thing is that sometimes we'll do that. And then, you know how a lab is going to have like one result that might be off in the
Yep.
CBC or,
Yeah.
and,
An
and
outlier.
they'll reach back after the appointment and ask me, well, what was
Why
this?
didn't you talk about
Why didn't
that?
you talk
Yeah.
about it? And like I missed something. I mean, I'm a
Right.
Virgo,
It's
very
because,
detail oriented.
yeah.
Like I missed something. No, I didn't miss it. I just didn't mention it because I'm trying to keep the information as streamlined as simple.
Right.
Because I think what people don't realize is they want to know the 100 details, but after they know the 100 details, they are so overwhelmed that then they're lost again.
They forgot the big picture. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I get it.
And I
Amazing.
don't know if you
So,
agree with me, but I think our job as practitioners is to simplify and make things easy for people, especially now in this information overload
sure.
world. Um,
Yeah. Well,
I used
it
to,
goes back to, you use the word empowerment, which is one of my favorite, that, this is what we're all about,
yeah,
is empowerment. I'm sure that has something to do with also why you wrote the book, and right? It's about allowing us
that's
to have the tools to heal ourselves. I'm not talking about, God forbid you need emergency surgery, you go to a Western hospital, please. But there's so many things that we can do day to day to take charge of our health. And it's the same with when we're sitting down, you know
and
going through labs. If you're giving every little detail, you might as well have said nothing, really.
no, you're setting the house on fire.
Yeah.
Um, it's almost better to choose that one thing
Right.
and then focus on that one thing,
Yeah.
but become really good at it, and then you go and add the next thing. I
Right.
think when you try to do everything at once, it can become too much for a lot
Well,
of.
that's, the coach approach, right? As a coach, it's fine. Let's find this, let's build on success. Where can we create change, either that's going to have the biggest impact or that takes the least effort to be
Yeah,
consistent with, so that then you can build on it. There's no
yeah,
way we could, if we were wired that way, we could do things like read a book and have it all figured out, right? If then we
yeah.
didn't read another book that contradicted the first book.
Throw
That's
throw that
our,
into the ADD, social media, dopamine hit
yeah,
world where everybody wants their results like this, but
yeah,
but true results take building a foundation, then stacking
yes,
layers on that foundation as you go down that healing journey.
yeah. Well, I can keep you talking for hours. So I want to talk about stacking, because in my morning stack, coffee is important. So I want you to tell us about Happy Gut Coffee, and how is it different and why? And does that mean we don't have to give up our coffee if we want to be healthy?
Isn't that great?
Ah,
Like if
so
you could
exciting.
not give up your coffee and still be healthy. It
Yes.
is the number one most drinked beverage worldwide. 2 billion cups of coffee are served every single day. 150 million Americans drink coffee. And so I wanted to come out with a coffee that was going to be healthy, and then also from the perspective of gut health, where it would be easy on the stomach, easy for people with sensitive stomachs, with heartburn, acid reflux. And
Which I
and
think is
so I'll give a
important.
visual here so people can see.
Oh, I
So
love it. Look at
it's got a
that.
beautiful sunrise image, kind of like
Makes you want to
the
wake up.
the branding is reminiscent of the 70s. I'm a child of the 70s,
Me
so I
too.
wanted something that kind of reminded
Feels
me
happy.
of when I grew up, because in my culture, which is Cuban, coffee is a very central part of our culture. It's what brings us together. It creates community. Cubans, and I know this is worldwide with many different cultures, that they gather around and have coffee.
Yes.
Um, in Cuban culture, we would even like if someone visited the house in the afternoon, the
Hmm.
first question you ask somebody is, "Would you like some coffee?"
Right. Yeah.
This is like 4 or 5 p.m. now. I later learned I'm actually quite sensitive. What you call a slow metabolizer.
Yes.
50% of people are slow metabolizers, and thus you have to be careful about how much coffee you drink because it's going to
And
affect,
when?
yeah, and
Yeah.
when, because it's going to affect the quality of your sleep.
I am a firm, which is so I lived in Miami or in the Miami area for 13 years.
That's where I grew up.
And so I am familiar with the Cuban coffee.
Yeah, we
And
used to joke that Cuban coffee can revive a dead person.
yeah, I mean,
That is that
in
is
the
how strong it
hospital where
is.
my kids were born, there was a amazing coffee cart that had genuine Cuban coffee. My who was also a good friend, OBGYN, happened to also be Cuban, so I was the like clean pregnancy until my doctor handed me a Cuban coffee, kind of. But I have a firm 2 p.m. cutoff. For
Yeah.
sure. And I will throw out, you did say sleep quality, even for people who say, no, I still sleep really well. It can really impact your quality, even if it's not keeping you awake. So,
I would challenge people who think that it's not impacting their
yeah.
sleep quality to wear some sort of
Hmm.
biometric device like an Oura
Yep.
Ring or a Whoop band or a Fitbit, to
8 sleep mattress pad, something.
yeah. So document what your sleep cycle looks like and see how much deep sleep you're getting, at least 90 minutes for
Yeah.
adults. Because it can affect you. And what I learned from actually one of the lecturers for the Institute for Functional Medicine, who is a fast metabolizer, he noticed that any coffee, even later after 2 p.m., was affecting his sleep architecture, even as a fast metabolizer. Because think of
Yeah.
those people who go out to dinner and then 9, 10 p.m., they're having an espresso right after dinner because their body's going to metabolize fast and they'll go to sleep. But really, what's happening to their sleep architecture?
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, I love the challenge. If you think if you think it's not affecting your sleep, play with it and track because what we can learn by doing that is again back to empowerment. I don't know. So I
Yeah.
love it. So you write this amazing again, talk about empowerment, the Gut Smart protocol. So of course your coffee has to be gut friendly, but not
I'll
just
show and tell here. My book, my latest book.
it's not just easier on the gut. Like what, tell us a little bit more about the coffee. How
There,
is it so
there,
special?
there's a lot that people don't realize when they're drinking coffee that could be hidden contaminants in the coffee. Starting with pesticides being the biggest one because coffee crops are among the top 10 most pesticide sprayed crops on the planet. So if you're not drinking organic coffee, you're very potentially getting exposed to pesticides that are going to disrupt your gut microbiome. And when they disrupt your gut microbiome, causes something called dysbiosis, which then leads to leaky gut, which then leads to inflammation, which then leads to weight gain and scrambles your insulin signal and scrambles your blood sugar. And next thing you know, you can't lose weight and you're wondering why.
Yeah.
So pesticides is one big hidden potential problem in coffee that a lot of people are not thinking about. The other thing is just the potential for mold contamination.
Yes.
And that's one that's a bit harder to track, like how much coffee is actually contaminated by mold. It really varies by manufacturer and how many corners they're cutting and what is the quality of the beans that they're getting.
Okay. Is
Because
it
when
true that in North America is the only place where we don't have these standards for molds in coffee, or is that not true? I always feel like I had heard years ago that basically we get the moldy coffee here.
that's
That's not
interesting.
acceptable. I don't know if it's true.
I feel like I would have to research that because I can't
I
imagine
feel
that
like you would know at this
it
point
might
if
not be a problem in other parts of the world. But I think America's probably likely, it's so profit driven that there are going to
right.
be
Like you
businesses
said, cutting
that are
corners.
cutting corners.
Yeah.
If you're buying an organic bag of organic coffee and it's costing $14 for the bag on Amazon,
Mhm.
I can tell you that those beans are not of the highest quality.
Ah, so they may technically be organic, but then there's other places where they were able to shave that price down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. There's something going on there, but definitely when looking at coffee, you want to make sure that it's organic. Ideally, you want to work with a brand that has third party tested their coffee beans to make sure that they are
Yes.
free of pesticides. I had our beans tested also for glyphosate. They are free of glyphosate. Make sure that they've been tested for mold. And I also went a step further because of my concerns, especially with cacao beans and how they found that a lot of the chocolate brands have cacao that's been contaminated with lead
Yeah.
and cadmium, which are, by the way, super important. These are not things to be taken lightly because, for example, cadmium causes prostate cancer that is resistant to chemo or to any treatment. So it's important to know, it's funny because I tell my son these things and he's like, well, we can't eat anything because
Right.
what do you eat? Because
Yeah.
something's contaminated with this, another thing has glyphosate. You have to be a savvy consumer. And and because of that, and because this is something that people don't want to give up, and I wanted to
Hmm.
create a coffee bean product that would be healthy for the gut, but also healthy for the body and good for the brain. And that's what inspired me to create Happy Gut Coffee. As our first version is a dark roast, and the reason for that is that the dark roast
Is the best.
lowers it's the best. Well, the thing about the roasting process, it's really fascinating because people often think that a dark roast is going to have more caffeine,
Right.
but it's actually the opposite. The
Yep.
lighter the roast, the more caffeine it has, and the darker roast, it actually drops the caffeine. So for somebody like me, like in the 50% of people out there, of the 150 million Americans who drink coffee every day, maybe about 50% of them are slow metabolizers.
Sure.
The dark roast lowers the caffeine content a bit because of the roasting process, but also it brings out the flavor notes in the coffee, which are not always brought out with the lighter roast. You get more of that very complex flavor. The other thing that it does is it really drops the acidity of the bean. And that's something that was super important for me. If I'm gonna come out with a coffee, it had to be low in acidity because so many people suffer from acid reflux, from heartburn. They're
Yes.
taking back to the medications, they're taking over-the-counter medications that just keep them there. But then they're drinking their coffee, even though it hurts their stomach because they
Right.
want their caffeine. right?
Right.
But they keep doing the same thing. And so I wanted to come out with a coffee that was gut friendly, low acid, but also good for your body, free of all the different toxins, the hidden toxins that can be found in coffee. And also put out a lot of education around it's not just the coffee, it's the habits, it's the way the coffee is made. The K cups that people love
Oh,
are
I'm
lined with
guessing you're not going to
plastic.
sell those.
No,
Ugh.
if we did
Yeah.
anything, we would actually sell a K-cup replacement as a steel filter
Yep.
that you can use in a K-cup machine
Sure. But
because
then
K-cups, but still,
the plastic machine.
you're still going through the plastic in the machine.
Yeah.
So we have to think about the microplastics is what I've been talking about around. And when you go out and pick up a coffee, and get it in a to-go cup, that to-go cup is lined with plastic. And when that hot water hits that plastic, it's going to release some little microscopic shards of plastic that you're going to drink. Now, why is this important? One, studies have now showing that microplastics lead to dysbiosis. They actually destroy the mucus layer of the gut, which is kind of like our little neutrozone that helps protect us from the bad bugs in the gut. And you wear away at the mucus layer, then the next thing you're going to get is leaky gut. Once you have leaky gut, you've just opened up the pathway for every chronic disease out there.
Autoimmunity.
Inflammation,
Yep.
autoimmunity, cardiovascular inflammation,
Yep.
blood-brain barrier issues.
All of
So
it.
not only did I want to come out with a coffee, but also really educate people around the habits of their daily coffee.
Mhm.
And I'm one that before, I want to just raise my hand and admit that I'm the one who would go to the local coffee shop and get my coffee in their
Yeah.
cup.
Until
And
you think about it, like we all have this aha moment, or hopefully that's why we're having the conversation. And then you can't I literally thought, this is how I live, what I do. I am in the rabbit hole. And I was literally creating slides for a presentation on limiting toxins. And I looked up, this was many years ago, but I looked up, and it was in that moment that I saw my old school drip coffee pot. It had this stainless carafe, and like in that moment, it hit me. Oh my gosh, that hot water is traveling through plastic to get to
yeah,
my stainless steel coffee pot.
yeah,
And we're always finding the up levels. I am that person that I like to support local businesses, and I will do my best to get my coffee in a mug. But once I again thought through the whole to go coffee cup, and then how could we possibly make it worse? Well, let's put a plastic lid on top so that just the steam can just condense and drip back down
yeah.
into the coffee.
I mean, look, if you do one thing, take the lid
Take the
off
lid
before you
off.
drink your coffee. But if you can do something else, which is what I've
Yeah,
started doing, is
yeah,
I carry my steel lined coffee
yeah.
tumbler.
Just bring it with you.
I bring it to the shop, and actually they charge you $1 less when you bring your own cup, which is great.
Yeah,
But most of the time, I'm making my own coffee at home because
right. Me too.
I've got a
Well, it's
better
the
coffee than the
best.
one that they make out there. So,
And
and I do it
so,
as a pour over.
thank you. That was going to be my question. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pour over or French press, but even a French press, like you have to make sure that it's a steel or like made from ceramic, because if it's plastic, then you're getting, again, you're
Yeah.
putting hot water in plastic.
Yeah. And you can find the glass French press with the stainless. Or what are your thoughts on this is old school stainless percolator that's just
I mean,
all stainless on the inside?
yeah, exactly. Like a mocha pot,
Yeah.
you mean? Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's how Cuban coffee is traditionally made with a mocha pot.
It's
And
kind of
that's
like medicine, going back to how things have been done for generations. It seems to work out better.
there is a price to pay for convenience. And
True.
sometimes convenience is not necessarily better for our health.
Right.
Yeah,
And there's a time and a place, for the exception. This is again back to you mentioned the word foundation. And
yeah,
kind of back to what your son said. My daughter is going through a phase right now where she's like, I think I'm worse than you with, she's cleaning up her product. She already has used clean products, but she's going further.
so
Um,
much to think about there,
and
especially women with makeup and
yep.
creams and all that, because there's so many toxins hidden in those things.
Yeah. And it's all really important, but that's the whole point is so that then we can take the hit out and about if our foundation is good. And to me, like you say, coffee, that's foundational.
Yeah.
I don't know. So
And it's
tell
what I
me,
call it's the micro habits.
yes,
Because we
yeah,
sometimes we write off things because they feel like they're such a small piece of our entire day. But I
right,
think it's the micro habits that create the macro effects in our
yes,
life. And one of those is drinking a cup of coffee every day. And if you can just switch that and make that a bit healthier for you, then
yeah,
you've just made a change that is going to have a powerful macro effect on your life when you add up the number of days in a year that you drink
sure.
coffee and all the microplastics. If you're drinking through those plastic cups or using K cups, it's like you're eating a credit card a week. Do you want to be putting that into
Right,
your body?
right. So let's talk about, I want you to educate listeners because again, I do have a very passionate relationship with coffee. Um, not only is your coffee not bad for you, right? Like it's not hurting your gut. It doesn't contain these things that we really need to be avoiding in order to minimize. But I mean, you're a doctor. Why not just tell people not to drink coffee? Tell us I know there are health benefits, so share.
There, yeah. I mean, and look, if you're doing like a major detoxification protocol, you might take coffee out and temporarily. But the
Sure.
truth is that anytime I've done that, and you know that too, they're asking us, okay, when can I bring the coffee back?
Right. Yeah.
And that's coming from someone who didn't drink coffee for 7 years. I
Wow.
actually
I
gave
didn't
up
drink it for
coffee.
two. I thought that was a lot.
7 years. I did not drink coffee for 7 years. And when I had it again, I realized, oh wow, I miss this.
Yeah. Joy
Yeah.
is good for the health, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Like
you want there's something about that ritual, but also the smell of coffee and don't knock it because I love matcha and I've been to Japan
Yeah,
and
me
had
too.
some really great matcha.
That's what I drank when I didn't drink coffee.
That's what I did for 7 years. I was drinking matcha instead. But I really love coffee, but there's other benefits to it. There's the polyphenols, and those polyphenols feed the gut microbiome. And as a result, your gut microbiome then is producing these postbiotic products, some of which help to even control your appetite signaling through GLP-1. So we know that coffee has benefits beyond just the caffeine, that actually having positive benefits for the gut microbiome, supporting a healthy gut microbiome, the postbiotic products, the gut brain connection. We know that people with neurological diseases like Parkinson's, early dementia, that a cup of coffee per day is actually good for their brain.
Yeah. And I love that you clarify. I mean, nobody's saying drink gallons of coffee, and we've already said don't drink it all day long. It's like
No.
anything good. There is a too much limit.
Yeah,
But
especially if you suffer from anxiety,
yeah,
you have to be careful with not crossing that threshold because you might not realize that your anxiety is amped up because you had too much coffee. You might not
right.
make that connection And I've tested it out even with my coffee, being a slow metabolizer and sensitive as I am. I'm great with 1 cup.
Yeah.
I don't crash. And it's a large, it's not like a 12 ounce. I do
Right.
I do a decent size cup. And then I add like my different powders. I'll put collagen in it. And I love putting SBIs in there. But
Nice.
I saw that if I have a second cup, even of
Hmm.
my dark roast, low acid, lower caffeine coffee, that I do start getting amped up. So it's
Okay.
super important. Listen to your body, because if you tend to be a person who suffers from anxiety, or you drink that extra coffee and then you find that your patience fuse is running slow,
Yeah.
and you then don't have the patience with your employees, your workmates. You have to think like there are internal processes that might be playing a role in that, and a lot of times it's related to our habits or things that we are ingesting, like sugar, caffeine, things like that.
Yeah. And I love that you point that out. I have had so many people with specific symptoms that they literally just either weren't willing or just because coffee's just that part of their routine, they never considered that it could be contributing. And I
Yeah.
actually I have one that I can't wait to introduce your coffee to because I think it'll really change her happiness level. um, Tell us a little bit about, is the coffee available now? How can people find it?
It's available through our website. If you go to happygutcoffee.com, it'll take you there. And we've got different types of ways to buy. You can get whole bean. You can also get ground. If you're buying ground, because we're still such a small operation, it's actually getting ground right
Per
before it gets
order.
put in the bag
Wow.
and sent out to you. So, because we know like the fresher is going to be to
Yeah.
have the whole bean coffee and then grind it yourself. But not everybody wants to grind coffee. But if you're ordering, just know that you're getting it freshly ground right before it's shipped off to you. So you're going to have like really fresh grounds versus
That's
grounds that have
amazing.
been sitting around at the grocery
Yeah, that
store.
you can't
Who
even
knows
smell it when you
how
open the
long?
bag. Nobody wants that. Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's
exactly.
amazing. You'll
So
have
right
to
now we
somehow.
deliver direct to consumer.
Perfect.
Our hope and goal for 2025 is to also make it available on Amazon. So that's one big goal. And people can save money by buying more than one bag or by joining and doing a
Like a
subscription for the
subscription.
coffee. When they get a
Perfect.
subscription, we give them a pretty significant discount on the cost of the bag.
Which is great. And I mean, let's face it, if you're a coffee drinker, why wouldn't you do a subscription?
I
It's
wought to be
really
without it.
exactly. Exactly. Well, I am
And
so excited. This is my favorite project of yours so far.
thank you so much.
And I can't wait to help spread
See,
the
it brings
word.
coffee brings a smile to
It
people's face.
does.
Like it's another reason that it's been also one of my favorite things that I've done because
Yeah.
and especially when I've sampled and had people taste test the coffee. I was in LA for this pre-Emmy Awards gifting lounge where I got to sample the coffee for celebrities, and just seeing everybody's surprise when they had the coffee black with no sugar,
Yeah.
nothing, at how smooth and low acidity it was,
Yeah.
and how easy it was on their stomach. A lot of them said they don't drink coffee because of acid reflux or because it
But
hurts
they
their
do
stomach.
now. Yeah.
Well, now they can enjoy Happy Gut coffee.
Yeah, amazing. So see, it's just another gift to the world. I'm so grateful for I'm trying to remember exactly how you put it, but you don't like that void, right? That blank space. I'm so glad that you are that person that's always just bringing us the next project. And I'm excited for listeners to try Happy Gut Coffee, especially those who have given up coffee thinking it doesn't serve them. because of, like you said, the acid reflux or just, digestive fragility. I say it's go out and go to happycoffee.com and get yourself a bag.
Happygutcoffee.com.
Happygutcoffee.com. Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us again and sharing your wisdom and spreading the joy through coffee this time.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me back.
For everyone listening, remember you can get the show notes and transcripts by visiting inspiredliving.show, and all the links are in there for you as well. Hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. I'll see you next week.
Thanks for tuning in to Inspired Living with Autoimmunity, hosted by Julie Houghton, your autoimmune coach. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone in your life who needs to hear it. For the complete show notes, links, transcripts, and everything discussed today, visit inspiredliving.show. You can also send in your questions there to be answered by Julie in a future episode. That's inspiredliving.show. Remember, it's time to take your power back.